Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Alyn. Coming up in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so, Robert Clancy, author of the Guide to the Soul, will be visiting us, and he'll be talking to us about Locked in Your Ivory Tower, coming up on this hour of Late Night Health. A few weeks ago, Daryl and I were actually doing some video work together, and I got an email, and I said, "What do you think?" And Daryl said, "Yeah, sure." And that was an email about a young man whose name is Douglas Robinson, who is an expert on vampires. Now, I read vampire stories all the time. It's just something I do. I fall asleep to blood, guts, and gore, I suppose, and I read a lot of fantasy. But according to Douglas, vampires are real. We have on our line from Birmingham, Alabama, Douglas Robinson. Douglas, welcome to Late Night Health.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
I'm really curious. I mean, when I eat a steak, and I don't do that often, I eat them blood rare, okay? I've even ordered steaks blue. But the idea of drinking blood, whether animal blood or human blood, is somewhat repulsive to me, and my understanding is that it can make you quite ill. Is drinking blood healthy?
Well, for humans it's not, but see, first thing is that I don't take the traditional Hollywood take on it. Most people have Dracula on the brain anyway.
Right.
What I talk about are physically changed, blood-drinking people. And my storyline involves a girl, and her name is Macon, and she's involved with a young man. It starts out that he doesn't know who or what she really is. And so they just look like normal people. Maybe their skin is a little paler than usual. But the second thing to think about this is that the devil really promotes a vampire anything. It's sort of his propaganda to make himself look good. And there's an occultic glamour that they put over vampire anything to make it look appealing and to overcome that normal hesitancy to drink blood.
Well, that would be the Hollywood take on it. Your take is that this is a real thing, and that and that your books, which are fiction, are based on real vampires.
Well, I get most of what I know about them from the lead character, Macon. I think she's real.
Are you a vampire?
No.
Have you tried to drink blood?
No.
No. Okay. Just asking.
Just establishing where we are.
Sure. Exactly. And in taking a look at blood, you mentioned that blood is life. I mean, there's food and nutrients and oxygen is carried. All of that. It should be something that we should be able to eat or drink.
Well, vampiric people do it because, see, we have to eat all kinds of different things like meats, vegetables, all the different food groups that we eat. So by the time it gets to our bloodstream, our body has gone through the process of assimilating it and make it into a nutrient. Well, when a vampiric person drinks blood, and I'm talking about the physically changed vampiric people, their bodies are thrown forward into a very aggressive metabolic regenerative cycle, and the fact that they don't have to eat all the different things to have sustenance to live, that blood is a very singular food source. And so what happens is their bodies, in our bodies, like 7% of our metabolism is given to repair and maintenance. In their bodies, it's much, much considerably higher. I would think even as high as maybe 93%. It's considerably higher of their metabolism is given to maintenance and repair, which is why, they go years and years and years and they don't appear to age. Now, they do age just like everybody else, but they don't appear to age.
And do they live for hundreds of years?
Well, yes. Macon herself, at the time the storyline was written or took place in 93, she was 294 years old at that point, and today she's, like 320 or so.
And this is somebody you call on the telephone and say, hey, can we talk?
Well, I don't have, I can't really produce her like that, but like I say, I guess I'm prejudiced. I think she's real.
Gotcha. I'm a little tongue-tied here because I'm not sure how to approach this. As I said, I love vampire stories. I love vampire movies. And the idea of a cult and the magic and turning into bats and all that kind of stuff. You're saying that part doesn't happen.
Well,
or does
there are a lot of occultic elements that... See, Macon knew of 3 ways to change. There's also an occultic way of changing.
By changing, you mean into a vampire? Or changing it to another form, physical form?
People.
Got it.
The other thing that I make a point, like in the second story, that there are many, many, many more human blood drinkers than true vampiric ones. True physically changed ones, I mean. What that means is you've got people that join a vampire community because they think drinking blood is cool. You got people who want to be Dracula. You got people that are just crazy wacko in the head, and they think that's a beautiful idea. Any number of things. But there are many, many more human blood drinkers, that I call them, than true vampiric.
Well, but if they drink, where do they get? You can't go to a blood bank and say, "Can I check out a quart of blood?"
Yes, vampiric people cannot drink blood with anticoagulants in it. So they're not.
A good thing that I take an aspirin every day. What? An anticoagulant would be the aspirin. Where do they get the blood?
People.
I mean, do they bite them with?
Human.
They take it through an IV. They bite them.
No, I don't. I think biting would be rather painful. They'd use a knife, razor blade. They withdraw blood similar to the way these people do in hospitals. So, like I say, another good thing to notice is that they're not out to kill everybody they meet, because the person that they kill today is the person they can't feed from again, 3 weeks down the road.
How many vampires have you met in your young life?
Well, I tell people about the one I saw at Walmart once, but I don't get what I get from them by meeting them, because that would be a security risk over them. I started out in all of this thing by praying for them and thinking about them. And then in 1983, I was taking a little fiction writing class that summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then my second short story of the little fiction writing class was essentially the ending of what would become the novel-length story, Silently Comes the Night. It's basically Macon and John are fighting over Thomas. And Thomas is her boyfriend at the time. And John is a vampiric killer that happens to be in her territory, and they're fighting. Well, Macon is cut or injured. She's helping Thomas, and he's been injured as well. Her blood gets on his wounds, and he's exposed to her blood. And then basically there's a fire, and then, Macon has to leave, and then Thomas is stuck there. That's how the first story ends.
In reality, do vampires come down with diseases, cancer, hepatitis B?
No, they will not get any bloodborne disease.
And what about cancer?
I doubt it.
Got
They're
it.
very robust.
And I have to point out, I believe your profession, your day job, so to speak, you're a computer guy.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
you have a lot of science. You're science based. And how long have you been doing that?
Programming.
Programming, right?
20 years, I guess.
Wow. So you really do have a background in software engineering. Is there a conflict in your head between that science and what you believe to be?
Well, hopefully I'm not a fruitcake. I mean, I really hope not. The point that I was making about the fiction writing class is when I finished that little class, I started seeing. And over the course of the next 2 months, I saw the equivalent of what would be later 16 novel-length stories worth of information about Macon. And so, like I say, I just got all of this inrush of information in 1983. Now, Silently took me 6 years to write.
Mm-hmm.
3 years the first draft, 3 years the second draft, and I just couldn't quite finish it. And I didn't pick it up again until 2010.
Gotcha.
And when I finished it, I wrote the second story, Rites of Passage, within a year.
And your family, obviously, they know how you feel. What do they think about your interest in vampires and belief in them?
Well, the only person that really expressed anything was my mother, years and years and years ago, and she said, "You really know people like this?" And that was pretty much her take on it. Gotcha.
And I mean, I am absolutely flabbergasted. I know that drinking blood, the closest that I could think of, I had a blood sausage once because somebody dared me to take a bite. And I don't know if you've ever had one, but you cut into it and it bleeds. It's a very thin, red liquid, and that's why they call it a blood sausage. I haven't had one in 40 plus years, okay? It was not my favorite taste. But to the idea of drinking blood is...
most people find that repulsive to do, but like I say, the devil plants this occultic glamour around it. Ask Nicole for my vampire ministry reference to single-page things.
I will indeed.
But it shows, in addition to physically change people, all the different things you're looking at.
Listen, you can go to silently-publishing.com, silently-publishing.com for more information on Douglas and his books and his beliefs. And we appreciate your joining us here on Late Night Health.
Well, thank you, sir, for having me.
Thank you. All right, Douglas, we appreciate that. All right, coming up next, we're going to be talking with Robert Clancy and being locked in your own ivory tower. Don't go away. More coming up here on Late Night Health. And be sure to join us at latenighthealth.com.
Welcome to Guide to the Soul. This is Robert Clancy. Grief can be such a burden on your heart. It can be crippling to the point where you can't even seem to function. I've been there, and I know that pain. But I also know you're not alone in that sorrow. We're all going through something in this life. Just as the sun has to face dark days, so do we. But the sun also has to shine again. Letting go of grief is not about letting go of your loved one. It's about making room in your heart for the love that you hold for them. If you have great grief, then you must have a very big heart too. It's time to fill your heart with that love and share it with everyone.
For more inspiration from Robert Clancy, visit guidetothesoul.com or go to the Moments with Robert page on latenighthealth.com.
The stigma around mental health disorders and suicide is still very strong in our culture. It's an uncomfortable topic for many of us, and yet it's something we can't afford to ignore, according to Dan Shuck, the author of A Glass Half Empty or Half Full, a children's book for grown-ups. Last month, the CDC released a study that reports suicide rates went up more than 30% in half the states since 1999. A Glass Half Empty or Half Full, a children's book for grown-ups, takes a new approach to addressing mental illness. The book playfully explores pessimism versus optimism to find balance, manage stress, and enjoy life. The book uses humor to provide an opportunity to determine the fullness of our own glass and how to apply it to our daily lives. Donations from the proceeds of the book will be made to a Glass Half Question fundraising campaign for the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. A Glass Half Empty or Half Full, a children's book for grown-ups, is available from Amazon.com, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. For more information, visit www.glasshalfquestion.com.